Something that I thought would help during Holy Week and Pascha, actually Lazarus Saturday, Palm Sunday, Holy Week and Pascha, is to look at the different themes of each day during this time. Of course, I'm relying on this book, the Synaxarion of the Lenten Triodion and Pentecostarion, because it does have nice brief descriptions of all of the different days throughout this time. So, of course, starting is the day before Palm Sunday is Lazarus Saturday, where we are told of the great miracle, the great final miracle that Christ performs, as accounted for in the Gospel according to St. John. So I'll just read this short narrative about that particular commemoration. On this day, the Saturday before Palm Sunday, we celebrate the fourth day raising of the dead of Lazarus, the righteous friend of Christ. Lazarus was a Hebrew of the sect of the Pharisees, and as far as is known, he was the son of Simon the Pharisee, who dwelt in the village of Bethany. He became a friend of our Lord Jesus Christ when he sojourned on earth for the salvation of our race. For when Christ continually conversed with Simon, entering his house and discoursing on the resurrection from the dead, Lazarus was quite pleased with the genuineness of this teaching, and not only he, but also his two sisters, Martha and Mary. As the time of the Savior's passion drew near, when it was especially necessary to believe in the mystery of the resurrection, Jesus was sojourning on the other side of the Jordan. Here he raised from the dead the daughter of Jairus and the son of the widow. At this time his friend Lazarus contracted a grievous illness and died. Then Jesus, even though he was not present there, said to his disciples, "Our friend Lazarus sleeps, but I go that I may wake him up." And again a little later, "Lazarus is dead." Then Jesus left the Jordan and went to Bethany, which is about 15 stadia, approximately 2 miles, away from Jerusalem. Martha, the sister of Lazarus, went to meet him and said, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But even now I know that whatever you ask of God, God will give you." Jesus asked the crowd, "Where have you laid him?" Immediately everyone went to the tomb. As the stone was removed, Martha said, "Lord, by this time there is a stench, for he has been dead 4 days." He shed tears for the one lying there, and he cried out with a loud voice, "Lazarus, come forth." At once he who was dead came forth, was unbound, and set out for home amidst great rejoicing and thanksgiving. This strange wonder roused the Hebrew people to malice, and they were infuriated with Christ. But Jesus once more fled and escaped. The high priest determined to kill Lazarus because many who saw him were won over to Christ. Since Lazarus knew what they were thinking, he sailed away to Cyprus. He dwelt there and was later elevated by the holy apostles to be Archbishop of Citium, present-day Larnaca. He was beloved by God, conducting himself most notably as an archpastor, performing many miracles. 30 years after his resurrection in 63 AD, he died once more and was buried in Citium. It is said that after his return to life, Lazarus ate only meals having some sweetness. Also, it is related that the All-Holy Mother of God sewed his omophorion and cuffs with her own hands and presented them to him as a gift. Furthermore, it is told that Lazarus never laughed but once after being raised from the dead, and that was when he observed someone stealing a clay vessel. At this point, he smiled and said, "Clay stealing clay." Lazarus said nothing concerning those in Hades, either because he was not permitted to behold anything, or he was directed to be silent about what he had seen. The most wise emperor, Leo, in 890 AD, after a divine vision, transported the precious and holy relics of the saint to Constantinople, to the church of St. Lazarus, that he had constructed, and deposited them reverently and ceremoniously to the right of the church's entrance against the front walls of the holy bema. Here his precious relics still remain, exuding an ineffable fragrance. The translation of his holy relics is commemorated on October 17th. The resurrection of Lazarus is appointed to be celebrated on this present day after the 40-day purifying fast, because our holy and God-bearing fathers, especially the holy apostles, found this miracle to be the beginning and cause of the fury of the Jews against Christ, when he was about to give himself over to his holy sufferings. For this reason, they placed this extraordinary and wonderful event here. In addition, the placement of this feast by the Holy Fathers serves as a necessary rest and transition between the rigors of the fast and the awesome and saving events of Holy Week. For in truth, yesterday evening's Vespers not only ended the Holy 40 days, but also ushered us into a joyous resurrectional prelude that will eventually lead to our Savior's passion. St. John the theologian alone records the raising of Lazarus, since the other evangelists omitted it, perhaps because Lazarus was still living and able to be seen. It is said that the rest of the Gospel of John was written about the eternal begottenness of Christ. The other evangelists included nothing about this. It is desired to believe that Christ is both the Son of God and God, that he is risen, and that there will be a resurrection of the dead. And because of the raising of Lazarus, this is especially to be believed, since his resurrection is a confirmation of the universal resurrection of man. Therefore, from this event, every man who has already died is said to be a Lazarus, and the burial garment is called a Lazaroma, for the word alludes to the remembrance of the first Lazarus. For if Lazarus was raised by the word of Christ and came back to life again, so all men, even if they have died, will rise at the last trumpet and live eternally.